Warning: the material discussed in this show may be sensitive or a trigger for some listeners. Strong language and topics are discussed. We talk with active duty service members and practice OPSEC at all times. You have been warned. Warning: the material discussed in this show Warning: the material discussed in this show may be sensitive or a trigger for some listeners. Strong language and topics are discussed. We talk with active duty service members and practice OPSEC at all times. You have been warned.
The Bipolar DM, Jason Cottam. His show talks about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. Check us out right here on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, also on WLFE-DD.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. So take a seat, sit back, and get ready for the Bipolar DM.
Okay. Welcome to the Bipolar DM podcast. I am your host, Jason. Just want to say ahead of time that we're having a little technical issues here. I had my mic muted and didn't know it, but now I got that fixed. My skin going all over the place, so my mic could get really hot at any moment or anything like that. So hopefully that's not going to happen. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. This is Bipolar DM Show, and I am your host, Jason. This is a show about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, with a mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. If you are interested in getting a hold of us, you can reach me by email at thebipolardm@gmail.com. or go to my webpage, www.thebipolardm@gmail.com. Messenger is a great way to get a hold of us. So if you go to our Facebook page, the handle is @bipolardm. You hit that in, and that'll take us right to our fan page, and you can hit message, and that's also a great way to direct message me. For those of you who are fans of the show, we do have a private group page on Facebook. It is called the Bipolar DM Nation. And it is free to sign up. All you have to do is just agree to one rule, which is to respect each other. And as long as you can do that, then we don't have to have 10 pages of rules before you get into the front door. Check us out on Facebook on WLFE-DB Radio Network, as well as WLF-DB.com. We're also on the Variety Unlimited channel, on Strim TV, and you can find us on Twitch TV. So it's twitch.tv/TheBipolarDM. Those are some of the best ways to reach us to view this show or our previous episodes. We're also on YouTube. If you do a YouTube search, you can come up with the show right there. Proud to be a supporter of Safe Space. Safe Space, if you're not familiar with it, this WLFE-DB radio network is a virtual safe space. So if you're going through any kind of crisis in your life right now and that you need some place to turn to. Now, we're not doctors, we're not psychiatrists, psychologists, or anything like that. We're just here to listen and give help and give resources. So if you go to WLFE-DB.com, scroll down to the Safe Space logo. There you'll find more information and resources that we have available for that. Also wanted to give a shout out and promote the Veteran Podcast Awards. So if you go to veteranspodcastawards.com, if you're a podcaster, you can register right up until July 31st. So you have until the 31st of this month to apply. Voting begins on 7 August 2021 until 10 September 2021. And then the awards will be announced on 5 October 2021. So, be sure to check out not only my show, but, others too. The way the voting system set up is that you have to listen to a couple different podcasts before in order to cast your votes or have your votes counted. So that prevents people from just going on there and, voting for one person and that's it. The idea behind this is to promote and cross-promote other veteran podcasts that are out there, whatever the topics may be. Mine's on Dungeons and Dragons and mental illness, but, we got others that they talk about their experiences overseas in the sandbox. Others talk about, mental health. There's many different kinds of podcasts that are in the world. There's veterans that are doing them too. And so I wanted to promote the Veteran Podcast Awards and also National Veterans Podcast Day, which is also on October 5th, 2021. So one last thing before we bring in my guest speaker is that we do have a Patreon account. Patreon is one of the best ways you can support us and this show. The money that you spend on Patreon goes to buying equipment and stuff like that, and T-shirts and buttons and all this other goodies that we sell and give away. Be sure to check out Patreon. It's patreon.com/the Bipolar DM. And let's go ahead without further ado and bring JR on board and see how this runs.
Is my mic on? My mic is showing on. Jason, can you hear me? Are you fucking kidding me?
Now.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm having some issues with computer.
Oh, okay.
Why? So, my last one, I didn't even think when ordering this one to check to see if it had a landline plug-in for it. I just stopped. It's like one of those things you always assume that are in laptops nowadays. So, for everybody who is not familiar, this is J.R. Reed. He's a writer and activist for mental illness and autism. And why don't you go ahead and say where some people can find your work?
Well, they can find it at notwe'rejustautistic.com, YouTube channel with the same name, Facebook page, same name, Twitter, that was a little too long. It's at NWJ Autistic. And I rarely post on Instagram, but it is Not Weird, Just Autistic as well. But the best place is the website. Tons of information, articles, videos, and a way to contact me and to get to other social media.
Excellent. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is we're talking about mental illness in the work. Got this going, or the topic in hand was one, I didn't have a guest lined up, and the other was that I had a really performance or broadcast last Saturday, and it was just awful. I mean, I didn't have a breakdown on the air or anything like that, but I ended up having to cut it short. And watching it, though, you can't really tell that anything's really wrong other than I just ran out of questions to ask, and I cut it short just because I'd rather cut the content than have 30 minutes of crap, me just stumbling around and think of things to say.
I totally get it. You had the weight of masking on your shoulder and then on your shoulders, and then you ran out of content and you had to just leap in fear, to try to find something, anything, and those two together can be a pretty nasty combo.
Yeah, and I felt really bad too because I did not do the prep work I normally do for this particular interview. I feel like my guest deserved better. She did say that she had a positive experience and all that. So that went really well. So, and she didn't know how long the show was supposed to go for anyway. So it's not like he was knowing that, we stopped 25 minutes early. What's going on? It's, she just knew we were done when we were done. So,
yeah.
But
I'm still perplexed at your mention of the word show prep. I'm not sure what that is. I'm kidding.
I don't know if we're serious. Okay, I was going to say show prep. Yeah,
No,
for those of you
prep,
that are out in radio land, show prep is what we do before we go on the air. That's, not through emails and crap like that, but also go through what we're going to go on, what's the content going to be when we discuss it, getting our guests ready, stuff like that. So that's when I talk about show prep. That's pretty much what I'm doing, is getting ready for the show. And but we wanted to talk about mental health in the workplace, and particularly having a mental illness and being a worker or lack thereof. My history, my work history is I've had 3 major careers, well, 2.5. I don't even know what they'll call this. But, I've had 2 major careers in my life, and then I got cut short with a disability. And really, bipolar was what had ended my career in the military and what had ended my pastoring at church and stuff like that. So now, because I'm a radio talk show host, I guess, is the best way. But it took a while to kind of come to terms that I wasn't able to work anymore, not in a normal job. And so something I wanted to talk about today is, what does mental illness do and how does it affect, what parts of your performance does that affect? I want to talk about ADA law and some of the stuff that's on your side, and like the Family and Medical Leave Act and things like that. And so, what is some of your background as far as your work history, JR?
You mean work as far as advocacy or work beforehand?
Just beforehand, like your job, your careers. I mean, did you have a lot of careers?
No, I bounced from, menial job to menial job for a while. And then I worked at a place for 10 years where my boss called me Forrest Gump every day to my face, in front of my employees and in front of customers.
Yeah.
And then I left there, and I was writing part-time, and I went to freelance writing full-time for over 20 years. And then about eight years ago, I switched my focus to primarily autism, mental health, neurodiversity.
Okay. And that's pretty cool too, because there's not enough advocates out there and educators in the health when it comes to mental illness, which I was just doing some of the recent statistics on the Department of Mental, who was it? New York Times did an article about the number of people that are affected by mental illness, and the big number is 18% every year are somehow impacted due to mental illness of some kind, whether it's depression, anxiety, or some of the bigger
18% of the population.
18% of the population.
Yeah, that number was way off. Because I will tell you that more than 18% of the population have a mental illness.
Yeah, and these are people self-reporting, so you don't know how many are not, because there's still that stigma and, lack of a better word, mystery shrouding mental illness and what it is and what it's not. And so, I kind of question those stats too. But that's just what's on their website at the time. But
I don't question. I call bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Especially in circles we run, we talk so much more, and people are more open to talk to us about their mental illness than they would in another company. So right. I found that a little bit more true since I've started doing the podcasting and stuff like that, and been, a verbal advocate for mental health and mental wellness. So, mental illness, it destroys so many things in our lives, and relationships and careers, and then it's so hard for us.
And health and lifestyle.
Yeah, especially self-care, weight, diet, exercise, all those big things that you got to be doing, or that you're not doing, brushing your teeth, taking showers. That stuff's a chore for us. So it's not funny stuff we don't talk about, but yeah, it's tough taking a shower. It really is. During the worst of my mental illness, I'd go weeks and weeks without taking a shower, but I also was very sedentary, so it's not like I was working up a sweat and stink or anything like that. But it was
weeks.
Yeah, exactly, and so those are also markers that I use to gauge my mental health. How am I doing? Have I taken the shower lately? And so those are. And if you're not able to take care of yourself, then how are you going to be able to do your job?
Right.
Now, of course, mental illness and doesn't always take away. Sometimes it does give back, especially those of us who get manic and stuff like that. They gave us, mental illness gave us Vincent Van Gogh and some of the great artists and workers and CEOs and entrepreneurs, because while there's a lot of lows, we also have incredible highs too. And when we ride those waves, riding the wave, we get so much done in such a short period of time. It's unreal.
Well, Mozart was considered to be autistic and also bipolar. If you saw the movie Amadeus years and years and years ago, he was definitely bipolar. He was up and he was down.
Yeah, especially, wouldn't be surprised if it was type 1. But the way she was portrayed too was really crazy. That was years since I've seen that movie, but yeah, that was a great reference. But getting beyond that, the hardest thing, I guess, getting back to work or going to work when you have a mental illness, I think, is yourself.
Yeah,
getting past your own fears. Fear of stigma, fear of what's everybody going to say at work, or if you're starting a new job at a new place, what am I going to do when it comes out that I have a mental illness, or I'm going to have a rough time or something like that. So it's crazy. But sorry, Mike's getting hot real quick. Stop. Uh, all right. So what are some of the things that, besides self-care, what are some of the things that are that's really hard to keep or keep a job or stable work?
Well, one has to do with routine. Many of us that, and I'm speaking more of autistics than other people, but it falls in still with everybody else. We want to do things a certain way, and we want routine. And if the routine, if you're telling me, fill out paper A, then C, then go back to B, then do D and E, and you just look at everything and you're like, that's stupid. Let's just do it all straight in order. That would be one thing. I think it's important to, and I hate to use the word, to come out about your mental illness to your boss. In fact, I've got a friend of mine who was a writer for me at Goodman Project for several years when I was editing, and he's a coming out coach. And he works mainly with the LGBTQ community, but he also works with other groups of people and other people, such as people with mental illnesses and autism and bipolar, wanting to come out to their coworkers or to their family, or, it's still, it took me a good 2 years before I wanted to tell anybody other than my immediate family, who just, immediately blew it off. But
yeah. And that is, that's always the biggest thing, is when do you want to tell, especially when it comes to work, because like when I signed on here with WLFE-DB, I told Ted, the manager, that it's not going to be if I can't broadcast, it's going to be when I can't broadcast. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, have a show in the backup, stuff like that, because knowing my condition, there's going to be a relapse at some point. It's just going to happen. And so as long as I'm trying to,
the 4 years I've known you, you've gone up and down 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. And so I told him, when this happens, I'm going to have some in pot ready to go, so that if I have one of those bad days or 2 bad days in a row, I can at least have a backup pot or vlogcast ready to go. And so, but I was very upright at the beginning, and he was very understanding, because he himself has an anxiety disorder and some other diagnosis, and so he was very understanding about suffering from a mental illness and having to take a day off or something like that when you're supposed to be in the broadcast booth. So,
right,
but we don't always get those kind of bosses. We get like a dick face there and kept calling you Forrest Gump, it was hilarious, like he's the next Robin Williams, who knows? But
I would have been more like George Carlin.
Yeah. So actually, one of the things is, why is it important to work? It's one thing, we talk about working, but why? Why is it important for us to work?
I think those of us that can, even though we may hate our job, the particular job we have, it does make us feel good to know that we can do things, that we can overcome what people say we can't do. My whole school life, including high school, I heard weird, stupid, and lazy from the teachers, and that I would never live up to my potential. Well, you know what? Bam, there you go.
That's right. Yeah, look at us now. We're talking about
Mr. Hugan. Mr. Hugan was cool.
Yeah. And we got the new podcast together that's coming up too, that we're going to be working on.
Yeah, we're going to do mental health happy hour every week on Warrior TV YouTube channel, and that will start in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, so this will be us too, and then uploading it, just like, or what was it say, every week or every 2 weeks?
Well, whichever you want to do.
we'll figure it out. Anyways, we're still in the beginning stages of this. Yeah, we're still in the beginning stages of this and talking out how often and how long. We still got to talk to and all that. He's based out of London, right?
Yeah.
And he has a country station there, right?
No. That's someone different. He runs his mental health warrior stuff.
Oh, okay. So we'll be keeping you all up to date about that. But yeah, one of the things about why it's important for people to work is it gives you a sense of purpose. Right. First, people are depending on you. You feel like you've been productive, even if it's just you having that sense of importance not importance, but a sense of being part of something. And if you're not there, people are going to notice, and then when you can't be there, then, people really get to notice.
Yeah. And I don't know what the statistic is mental health wise. I know autism wise, 80 to 85% of autistic adults are unemployed or underemployed. And I would guess it is pretty close to the same for a lot of people with mental health issues.
I just saw the statistic today when I was doing some prep, and unfortunately I did not save that particular article from where that was from. But yeah, they're talking about the same statistics for employability and stuff like that. And so it's trying to work. It's especially with having a mental illness it's a real challenge because like other disabilities, even like physical disabilities, you got to make accommodations and you got to figure out ways of getting around things that people will take for granted, like showing up on time or having laundry done, stuff like that, being able to perform your job, too. That's the other thing. Worrying about or having anxiety or having a panic attack at work. I mean, one of the worst things is to decompensate in front of your coworkers.
Well, the thing is, I would talk to my boss about that very early on. You don't have to disclose that you're autistic or bipolar or whatever, although I personally don't see any shame in it. But, I understand that a lot of people don't want to admit that. But just tell your boss, hey, I'm having a hard time with this. If I could be allowed to wear headphones when I'm not, noise canceling headphones when I'm not on the phone, that would help me quite a bit. Is that something that I would be allowed to do? Then you don't disclose
this kind of accommodations.
Yeah, but you're not disclosing your mental illness, but you're disclosing a better way to do things for you.
Yeah, for you. And stuff like that is actually covered under the law under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Yes, you're not required to volunteer information about your mental health, just like you are not, under law have to be compelled to disclose your physical health. And so,
well, my mental health, everybody knows, so I'm not going to have to worry about that.
Put it out there forever for the world to see, and all that. So,
yeah.
It's like, what I do with the, with just podcast and stuff like that. I'm putting myself out there. And if I'm having one of those days like last week, I don't know if it shows, I know what to look for as far as signs and symptoms on myself, while I'm nitpicking my previous episode. But as far as the average viewer or listener, I don't know if they would have noticed any difference because we work so hard. One of the things we work very hard at with having a mental illness.
Yeah. Oh, no, exactly. A lot of us are just by nature perfectionists.
Yeah. And we work so hard to mask are what's really going on underneath. Like one of my favorite commercials, that pharmaceutical commercial, which accurately I think portrays how we deal with depression, is the one where you have the lady with the sign hold up of her face, which has a little happy face on there, and behind there, though, she's miserable. And that's kind of how it is, where we have to put on this, the meet expectations of society. Like the Joker said, the worst thing about having a mental illness is being expected not to act like you have one, or something along those lines. But, along those lines where he's talking about, that's just, when you have a mental illness and you show it, or it's put out there, people really don't know what to do with it a lot of times, because, we talk about mental illness, but I mean, how many people in society have actually seen mental illness and recognized it?
Well, and it's such a broad category.
Yeah, I mean, we're throwing in the depression and the panic attacks, and right up there with schizophrenia.
Well, but and again, and I go back to autism because that's what I know and that's what I do. You've got people all over the spectrum. So you take just the autistic people, and you've got some that can do some things and some that can't do other things, and but they can excel at this. So, you don't just look at people with disabilities in one big group.
Right. Yeah, and that's autism. You've met one person with met one person.
Yeah, Stephen Shore.
Or was it one person? Yeah, and it's the same with mental illness. Even everybody's is a little bit different, and mine's really or borderline personality disorder. I'm starting to question pretty heavily whether or not I actually have that, or if my I don't know. But because I have a lot of the other characteristics of borderline besides the narcissism and the and stuff like that. But let's go ahead.
I've never been a real narcissistic kind of guy.
Yeah. Let's just go to real quick, and then we'll come back and pick this up.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Amy?
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab, and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
I don't know why I'm typing when my microphone is off. So you wanting to sit here and do this shows me that you actually are interested in me, and yeah. But a lot of people won't do that. That's what I'm saying. So thank you. I didn't figure it was a problem, but I don't understand why I'm here. I've said like 10 words. No, he just had somebody who was supposed to be his guest, and he flaked out like 12:30 or 1. What? No, he's cool.
Hey, JR, we're back.
Okay.
It's off.
Can't see pictures, but there we go.
This computer started really pissed me off. All right.
You got Kramer and Einstein behind me.
About that. Some serious lag is what I'm getting. Yeah, it's just a processor. You got to process this laptop to do what I needed to do. Attack. All right. For those of you just tuning in, we're with J.R. Reed, advocate and podcaster, vlogcaster. We are talking about mental illness and workplace. And we left off talking about ADA law and some of the protections that we have nowadays under the ADA, especially when it comes to securing your job, promotions, also keeping your job, but also accommodations while at work. And so we talked about one example of that.
Yeah, one thing you have to think about, though, is just because somebody files an ADA complaint doesn't mean it's going to get red stamped and, yeah, you're right, let's find these guys. It doesn't work that way.
You have to imagine a government office in Washington, D.C. with 12 employees or something. Like, you have to imagine how many ADA complaints they get in a day. From people that are doing bullshit once,
Yeah.
So, because they can't bring their peacock to an emotional support animal or some stupid stuff like that. Yep. Making it hard for the rest of us.
True that.
All right. Going a little bit to the left, what's some of the things that you have found helps you maintain work? 20 years is a good stretch, writing and staying on top of it. So what are some of the characteristics of the job you chose, things that you did to help keep you in on it?
Well, I retain useless knowledge. Completely useless. Someone could explain how to build something step by step and also be telling stories in the middle, and I would get the stories, but not the how you actually do it. But I think when you're feeling really good, when you're feeling in that groove, do as much as you can. Sit and sit outside, sit at your favorite coffee place, sit in front of wherever helps you think, and come up with some ideas. I've got a Excel-like spreadsheet, and it's listed with 30, 40 topic ideas to write on. So when I'm feeling like, God, I've got to do this, and I don't want to do this, I don't know what to talk about, I can go back and find these pieces that I may have written 2-3 paragraphs or just a line about, just
my little iPad card idea that was for a show ideas. There's an idea right there. Write that down.
Yeah,
a little blurb about what it's about, stuff like that. There's a lot of tips and tricks that we can do to help keep working and stuff like that. And one is trying to find a job that's flexible. Punching a card 9 to 5, just doesn't work for us. Literally does not work. Found with having no deadline, the opposite either. I've had gone years without a purpose or deadline, and it doesn't feed that need to have a sense of purpose. Now that I got a weekly show that I got to do, and some of the other obligations that I'm doing now.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. For me, the stuff I have to write for the Mighty, for Huffington Post, for different brains, stuff where I have deadlines. I've got to work on those, and then my personal stuff slides.
Yeah.
Some of the things that does.
Yeah, I mean, because we. It's that's really important, that puts food on the table, keep a little bit more share in the bucket than other things do, like your personal life.
Well, and I'll say this, it's, again, I talk about it with autism, but you can use this across all disabilities, is sit down and think about two things. One, what are your likes? What are things you enjoy doing? And then the other is, what are any limitations I have to doing this job? And then writing them down. Yeah. And then you can sometimes see that, well, it's not as hard to get into this kind of work, as I previously thought. Maybe I could just do this and this and get going.
Yeah. One of the things that we learned from the pandemic was the boom and growth with working from home. As long as you have a good clear internet, high-speed internet, and web camera, you can work from anywhere on the planet, literally. And like the girlfriend, my girlfriend right now, she's a insurance broker, but she works from home. She works in her library, so it's not like she didn't even work at a desk, but she rocks and rolls it though, and she was already working from home before the pandemic hit. She was just kind of like the test subject, saying, all right, let's see how it works for Siobhan, and then once we get through that, then we'll implement it across the board for everybody else. And it worked really well with her because she has a really good work ethic. She's not looking around or anything like that, doing stuff. She does, and she's very good at it. And so those are kind of the things where knowing your work ethic is also very important, especially if you're getting into a job or career that's very flexible, such as writing and freelance work and stuff like that, where you've got
to remember though that there's a lot more than just the writing. There's getting a hold of the publications and pitching stories to them. It's keeping track of them. It's getting to the point where you work with editors enough that you can still pitch ideas, but they'll call you for stories that they want to see happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like
what I meant is that having a job that's really flexible, but being your own boss though is where it's you got to know yourself and your limit.
You've got to know yourself and know that if you're home alone, are you more likely to sit and play video games or watch TV, or sit at your computer and work at things?
Crank it out. Yeah.
Research.
Exactly.
Read books. Look at different websites.
Networking.
Journals.
Yeah, networking and getting sources.
And then you got to spend time on social media. Not that you're trying to build, a huge audience, but people that are like-minded. It's important to keep that up too.
Yeah, you want to keep that stuff up to date too for the people who do want to check out, more information of you or what you do or what you're advocating.
And I'm horrible at that most of the time because I figure I just don't feel it.
What I've found is I post a regular article. I get an article from Bipolar or BP magazine, and they have awesome articles they email me. And so that's the article. I always post, and other than that, I'll try and do updates too. Whether it's a live update on video or if I'm just typing something in saying this is what's going on. That's what I do on my fan site and my group site, but like for the public site, which is the Bipolar DM, that one there I try and keep more
professional
professional and not what's going on in my day-to-day life, like unlike my other ones I do.
Unless it would have something to do with the bipolar or the mental illness that you're going to write about.
Oh, yeah, such as, saying, hey, I got something going on, and so I'm not going to be able to broadcast, so I'm putting it out there, that kind of stuff, date, or got a series coming up, or need some suggestions, or, those kind of things. So, but getting back to my point, though, is, you do need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. Everybody has both. It's not all negative and everything like that. We have strengths, too. And being able to know yourself, especially at our age, having been there and done that, we really do have to know ourselves right now. I mean, if you don't, then you're just running in circles, chasing your own tail. You have to have that 2020, look at your life and
I know personally that when I speak to a large group, 1,500 or more, up to the 1,500 that I spoke to at the Missouri State Capitol last year, just before COVID, I know that is going to, that whole experience, from the nerves and the panics, stuff beforehand to, the actual experience, I know that I will go home and sleep for 6 to 8 hours. No problem.
Yeah.
And so I build stuff like that into my schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, having that time to decompress from all that too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And that goes right. Actually, goes into my next point, what things main would start with self-care.
Okay. I didn't hear the whole first part. What things?
Oh, things we do to help us maintain work, such as self-care.
Being very careful that you take your medicine every day, morning, afternoon, evening, whenever the doctor prescribes it. And you know what? Right. I mean, there's all kinds of cases and there's different things, but you know what? Find what works for you. And, find what works for you to make sure that you take your medicine every day. And who cares what it looks like?
Yeah.
I mean, when I travel, I've got a little 7 day with 2 things on each side, but sometimes the clips come up. And so I got a roll of hockey tape that's with it, and I just wrap it in a roll, wrap it once in hockey tape.
Yeah, this is everything, man. So self-care, taking your medication. Hate to say it, but taking care of your physical health is important too. Diet and exercise. There's so many things we're finding out about our diets and how it's for mental health. Get knowledgeable about certain diets that you can try to help with your mental health.
Yeah, but Jason, I would really, really caution people that when they do stuff like that, they're looking for reputable sites.
Right. Yeah. And talk to your doc. Of course, talk to your doc first about it. Make sure you do it.
Not Bob's blog, but
the Apple Cider Diet 2000. Yeah. When we're talking here, we're talking about going to real science, real doctors. Not, hey, drink this shake, and you lose 20 pounds. It doesn't work that way, and it's not healthy.
Right.
But talk to your doc. Make sure you know what your health is, your physical health, because one of those things that creeps up. I just had a buddy who just turned 45 last month or month before and passed away in his sleep. Heart attack, massive heart attack, is what they think he had. And but went to high school with him. He just retired from the Air Force after 20 plus years, and so it was just crazy, when that happened, because you just don't know when it's going to happen. There's sometimes when you have the Widowmaker, and then there's other times you can catch it in time, whether it's a odd lab result or EKG or whatever, get those tests done, and don't be afraid to go to your doctor and know what your health is. What about our home life? Because that's really important too. We can't do all work, all play. We got to have that balance. So what about home? What about your home and social life?
It really varies from person to person and group to group. I would say learn what your family needs and what they want. Talk to your wife,
Right.
Talk to your kids, and see if you can figure out a system that will work for you, that will meet your needs and their needs.
Yeah.
It's all about communication.
Yeah, and those things for great home care is the taking care of, by taking care of the lines of communication, keeping those open so that if you got to pick up more hours, it's untenable. But at the same time, if you can only pull 20 hours a week, and so you're home a lot more, that's
Right.
understandable too.
Right.
So so those things are very important. So taking your meds, taking care of your body, taking care of your household, and relationships there.
Yep.
It's so easy for us to unplug, especially for those of us to live alone and disconnect from everybody in your life. If you're having a bad one or a bad month or something like that, and you just kind of fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah, well, if you've got a good significant other or a good friend, that person, you should talk to them about, what could happen and what to do if it does happen.
Yeah. And I've had some good friends who would check in on me. I was like, hey, buddy, I haven't heard from you in a couple of days or whatever, and just call and see what's going on, and I appreciate those phone calls.
Yeah,
Don't get
and
as
I'm
many.
a little less
Yeah.
tactful when I call and make those calls. I go, you have to up? Are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So let's see, kind of going back into self-care and physical care and stuff like that. What kind of support networks should we put in place when we go to work?
I think that in real life support groups are very hard, especially right now. I don't know what the numbers are again for the other, conditions, but I know autism has a very high rate of people that are on the spectrum, have been diagnosed on the spectrum, but don't want to tell anybody they're on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
that's
would
really
not
tough.
they would not want to go to an in real life support group, but they might be willing to go to one.
Support network, not support group, a support network. Family, friends, coworkers
but
you can talk to,
think
stuff
about-
like that. That's what I mean.
The thing about
Yeah.
it, a lot of us
totally
don't-
understand what you're talking about. But yeah.
a lot of us don't have that family, that group of friends,
Mhm.
that can
Yeah.
do that. And so what I was talking about becomes their lifeline and their way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you should always talk to your inner circle, and get their opinions and ideas, and process those. But if you got nobody else to talk to, go right to the big boys.
Yeah. But setting up a support network is knowing how, like your perfect example, part of your support network or support system. I like support system a lot better. But support system was taking 6 to 8 hours to crash after a big event like that, not going straight to something else right after. So those are the things that we want to talk about, having that support system in there, not just having one tool in the toolbox, such as a friend or family member, but having several tools, having some plans. That's very important, where you can be able to talk to somebody and not feel like you're going to be judged or or whatever, for what you say or what you're feeling.
Right.
And so, but also, but what about
as you build relationships with people, significant others and whatnot, you'll be able to learn to tell them, this could happen sometime, and this is probably what should happen, and tell them if it's something that you normally can pick up ahead of time or not pick ahead of time. For example, I haven't had one in a long time, but just a full meltdown, that I wasn't able to stop or do anything. I've got a playlist on my phone called Meltdown Music, and it's just music that I can listen to when I'm in that space, and I can try to calm myself, because you got to remember, meltdown is different than a tantrum. The kid wants a box of cereal, and you go to the next aisle, he's still going to be screaming for that box of cereal. Once the reason for the meltdown is gone, the meltdown stops.
Yeah. And support and stuff like that is also having a plan while you're at work. Is there anybody, being able to know, or it gets really tough, especially for those of us that are socially awkward. Having somebody you can talk about, just be able to talk to at work, or even your boss. Not everybody has that great relationship with their boss.
Right. And I guess it depends on the size of the company too, and is it corporate? Is it mom and pop? Is it, big city? Is it
somewhere in between?
Yeah. So it depends. The only advice I would really give and be comfortable giving is find someone that you trust and talk to them. Whether it be somebody in human resources, whether it be a friend in another department, somebody to run these ideas by and think about, and, and figure out the best person for you to go talk to. Because there is somebody you should be able to go talk to. Yeah.
So, and we're going to go ahead and tie it up with that right there, which is talk to somebody. Thank you, JR, for coming on. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the back room for a bit. So thank you. And
I'm not coming back, am I?
Oh, I'm going to talk to you after we're done with the broadcast. Real quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to do the outro credits in the broadcast, and then I'll pull you right back up.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you for listening to the Bipolar DM. They love sharing thoughts and ideas. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the Bipolar DM. They love sharing thoughts and ideas. See you next week, 7 p.m. Saturdays on WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows, and that makes for great talk radio. WLFE Digital Broadcast